Good day everyone, it's Caitlin, and today we are making mid-19th century baby petticoats, this time machine sewn and in cotton. Hello and welcome. We are here making more baby petticoats. So this week we're going to do, we're going to copy the original we did last time, except this time we're going to do it in cotton and we're going to do it by machine. Yes, I very well could use the ones from last week again for the later half of the 19th century. But at the same time, skirts are getting shorter, so I might as well go ahead and make something a little bit shorter. So as a reminder, this petticoat, I believe, is 25 inches long. Yep, 25 inches long. We're going to make it 27 finished. So that's, how is an inch and a half hem? So that's a 2-inch hem with turn under. So that'd be 29. Plus I need half an inch here. Okay. So 29 and a half. Let's go ahead and cut an even 30 inches, and it could be an inch, and it could be half an inch longer with no problem. I have the edge of the fabric, a whole bunch of cotton here. And I believe we're going to cut 2 of them like we did last week, so 1 to wear plus a spare. I'm going to cut 30 inches long. Now this fabric is 44 inches wide, and of course we're going to need something a little bit wider. So the original is about 36. So, add 2 panels, so each was, I think, 28 inches, so it equal to be 56. So what we're going to do to get closer to that measurement, it's going to be a little bit over, but I think it's going to be okay. What we're going to do is cut 3 panels, cut one of them in half, and use it that way. And this last panel we will fold in half. What I'll probably end up doing is actually, you know what? Let's go and cut all of them in half, only because then I can just do 3 panels per skirt. So I'm going to remind myself, this is 4 inches, which means I need to cut it 5. And this is for a newborn baby. What I am going to do is cut it as wide as I need it. So I need it to fit up to 9-ish, up to 12 months. So that, according to the Google chart I consulted, the chest of, or the waist, one of the two, of a 12-month-old infant should be around 20 inches. And it's okay if it's a little bit bigger because it'll still fit it. So it's underwear, no one really sees. So I'm going to cut it 20 inches, and we'll just fold it over and make do until then as the baby grows. So that means I need 21 inches because of the turn under. 5 inches. I should be able to get 2 out of 1 set then, so that's actually going to work out perfectly. And of course I do need a front and a back, so I'm going to need to cut a second one. And that is very nearly exact. Just a little bit off. That's not bad. Alright, very little waste. That's what we strive for in the 19th century. Anyway, I think I'm going to iron some fabric and then we'll get sewing. Alright, let's start sewing. I'm going to offset it slightly, that way I don't have to cut it off because I am going to do a felt seam since this one is raw. And we're doing a very small stitch because even the machine stitches were very tiny back then compared to what we do today. Now I did fell the seam, or I did turn under the edge, even though it was a selvage, just because it was going to be too big and too far away from the other seam to look right. Alright, so I'm going to sew another panel on this side, so I'll have a long rectangle, and I'll come back to show you how we're going to make the circle. Alright, So at the very back, I'm matching the two seams. You know, last time I put them offset, I'm going to match them, leaving a little bit just for a casing for an opening, so for when we fit it on the baby. I ran out of bobbin thread. I'll change out the bobbin, finish that seam, and I'll meet you back for the next step. Alright, so I ironed the seam flat, folded in the ends, both of them. And I'm just sewing down both sides, so they'll be like a double felled seam, essentially. I found it to be the easiest way to handle the split at the top. We're going to do the hem next, and all I'm going to do for that is iron it up about half an inch or so, and then 1.5 inches. We'll come back and stitch the hem. Alright, here's our hem. We're stitching it on machine. We're going to do some hand gathering on the skirt, but I am going to prep the bodice first. I'm not going to start stitching right at the edge. I'm going to give it about a seam allowance with not sewn. And again, we're going to stop out a seam allowance width away on this side. Now I have some hand sewing to do. We'll come back and attach it. So I have here a gathered skirt, and I'm putting it to the top. So pulling on my gathering thread, and then kind of just fitting it. So there's a good amount of gathers. Oops, they want my thread. Pinning it down. And the pins are just there to keep the gathers in place. Right, and now that I'm done with that, I get to sew that real quick, just by machine. Now I have machine stitched petticoat, and I'm just going to use a whip stitch to attach the bodice and the skirt on the back side, really. I was going to say underside, but it's the back side, the wrong side of the petticoat. Alright, now we get to add on the ties. So originally this would have pinned on. I'm going by all the parenting books of the early 19th century, and most of them say, do not use pins on baby clothes. But lots of horror stories about why you shouldn't. So we're going to follow the advice, not necessarily what they were doing. I'm going to pretend I'm a new mother who is very avidly reading these parenting books. So I believe now this thing should be 20 inches when closed like this. 10 inches now. Yes, okay. And that's the largest that it'll go. So let's see, I'm going to put the ties at the very end. I'm sort of going off of the tied belly bands that we did. Make them about this long maybe. Okay. So instead of 3, I'm going to do one at the top and one at the bottom here. I think that third one's just kind of useless. And for the strip here, there were 2, but I think I'm only going to do 1. So we needed about that long. And take this first tie, and I'm going to fold it in half. Probably could do this by machine, but let's go ahead and, since we're here, and put it at the top. This will look better anyway. I'm just going to whip this all the way around. Put this one down here. Not quite at the very edge because there's a lot of bulk here already, but kind of right next to that bulk. Now, because the smallest I'm going to need this is 18 inches, likely, which is a little narrower, which is a little smaller than I think a child would be wearing this. We're going to put this about 2.5 inches over. For the newborn size. And that way, when they're newborn, it'll be worn like this. But as they get bigger, the ties will still hold in place as this moves over up to about this size. So I'm going to really stitch this down. Can I move my thread in between without actually sewing anything? I want that to be free. I'm going to stitch this down very well using a back stitch. End it right there. And we'll do the same thing over here. So back stitch here. Move up and stitch this to the top. Making sure that is very secure. And we have a completed petticoat. So that way these ties, or this one tie, can go through this little loop here. Oops, wrong end. And I can tie it with this. But I can also loosen it as the baby grows. Yay for adjustable clothing. Alright, so there's our lovely little petticoats. basically the same thing we did last week, except out of cotton and by machine. So these went a lot faster. Took maybe a couple of hours, maybe 2, from cutting to finishing. Super simple. Highly recommend machine work when you can get away with it. It is fantastic. But those are our lovely little petticoats. Again, highly adjustable, so they should be able to fit a newborn, unless it's super tiny newborn. At which point, I suppose I would just make another one of these. I'd put it like right here. That way there would be 2 layers. I could make it smaller very easily. And it'll grow up to a 20-inch waist is the average 1-year-old size. Now, 1-year-old would not be wearing these because of how long these petticoats are. Now, I could take tucks in them all as the child got bigger, but that's no fun. And I'd have to take the tucks out again when the next child came along. So these are just going to be earlier petticoats from up until basically they start walking. And then we'll start letting them wear the shorter petticoats that we're going to make in next week. Yeah, next week. We're going to start those next week. So we basically are making 5 petticoat videos. There are the wool ones, which go underneath. These I would wear in these I would put on a baby in the summer if I don't want them to wear the wool one. Or I could have these on top of the wool one. Since they're white, they will blend in better with a dress. And they are still a little shorter than the dress. So this is either the topmost petticoat or the petticoat that goes, or just the plain petticoat if we're only going to wear 1 petticoat. And it's summer and that sort of thing. But this is basically to take the infants all the way up till they start crawling and walking, and then we'll shorten them and do those petticoats next time. Those are going to be a little bit different. We're not going to do the top the way we did these. We're going to, at least for the early set, we're going to actually make them, they're kind of combinations almost. It's a stay or a corset with the petticoat. And then the week after that, we'll make actual corsets for babies for the mid-19th century, and then we'll make petticoats button on top of those. So I wanted to give you like several different options. So we're going to differentiate that by time period. So we've made the wrap petticoats, which we did in wool, but you could also do with a linen top, wool bottom, or you can do it all in linen or all in cotton, whatever. We did this type, which you could make pin or tie, depending on your preference. We'll do the bodice petticoat, and then you could have the separate stays with the button-on petticoat. So we'll have all those options on the channel. If you're interested in making your own baby clothes, you can kind of pick what style works best for you. And again, you don't have to make all the ones that I'm making. First off, I do a lot of different time periods, so it is different for me. But even if you did a lot of different time periods, you could still get away with last week's petticoats in this time period. They would just be linen and hand sewn, and that's not a big deal. And again, you could shorten these for a child who's starting to learn how to walk, and you wouldn't have to make a whole other set of petticoats. It's just personal preference. I don't have to put tucks in to undo it for the next child. That seems like a lot of extra work. I'd rather just make the petticoats, and I don't know if a kid's still going to be wearing petticoats and the next kid's going to be needing shortened petticoats. I don't know how that's going to work yet, and so I just wanted separate pieces. It made more sense to me that way. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today as we made our lovely little petticoats. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you here in the next video.